I don't know why I'm so shocked with just how bad some people's gameplay has been this year. Like normally there's 1 or 2 players that just don't get it. But this year, it seems like so many people are working against their own best interests. It's crazy. There's going to be a lot for us to talk about today, including some showmance drama, and of course, the drama and saga surrounding Angela continues. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you're not subscribed already. Trust me guys, the TV edit just does not do this actual game justice at all. And when you watch the show, you're really only getting a tiny portion of the story, which we'll talk about later when we go into the Angela details. So if you want a deeper dive into what actually goes on in this game, and if you want to take a peek behind the reality TV curtain, this channel is a great place to start. Now, let's get into it. So when we last left off, Kenny had just won the power of veto, forcing Chelsie to choose another replacement nominee. Luckily, Tucker swooped in just in time to volunteer to be on the block, which again, I would 1000% not recommend at all. But I guess I kind of sort of get it because it is probably the safest week to do so. After all, he is going to be sitting next to the least liked people in the house, which is Lisa and Angela. Now, Angela is obviously nervous about being on the block, and because of that whole drama between her, Quinn, and T-Kor, at this point, she is for certain that she's the one going home. So now Angela is starting to get antsy, right? You know, she doesn't want to go out without a fight. She wants to make some sort of move. So she's going to start kind of flirting with this idea of revealing Quinn's power to everybody as a way to gain leverage in the game. Now, how that would be relevant to them keeping her, I'm not sure, but again, this is just what's going on in Angela's head. Quinn first told Angela about his power on day 2, maybe his biggest mistake of the game so far. And Angela has just been holding this information in close to her ever since. She hasn't said a word about it, so much so that for a second, I actually thought she may have forgotten about this altogether. But nope, she was just waiting for the right time. So Angela first walks up to Kenny, and she's gonna start to feed little trails of information to him, trying to get him to work with her in some capacity.
I have something very, very powerful that I will share with only you.
Okay.
And I'll give that to you in my hug when I go to leave.
All right.
It'll be a gift.
Thank you.
And you do with it as you choose, but it's very interesting.
Now, Kenny is probably the last person Angela should be talking to about any of this. He has zero interest working with her or listening to her. Hell, he has zero interest in working with his own damn self, so that's just a bust. So then Angela moves on, and she finds a bigger group of people working in the backyard, and she's trying to now drop hints to them, telling them how the power works, but she's not actually revealing who has it right now. And again, nobody is really listening to her or believing her. She's still the house outcast, so nobody really thinks that what she's saying is the truth. They think she's just saying stuff to keep her ass safe, which she is, but it's also the truth. So later on in the night, she is going to just be really straight up, and she's going to go up to Tucker and let Tucker know pretty much directly that Quinn has the power.
You were looking at my face to see if I would give away Quinn, but I didn't.
I don't.
And I wanted to prove to you at that moment.
Quinn is not a person that I think has it.
Okay.
That's not who I think.
I want to stay here. I don't want to expose this. I really don't.
But of course, Tucker being Tucker, he has been so convinced that his number one public enemy, Lisa, has had the power and that she's been a liar this whole time. So he's still not believing Angela. He just can't see past his hatred of Lisa. So even despite all of this, they all still believe that Lisa has that damn power. I can't with these people. Really, Angela does not need to do any of this at all, okay? All she needs to do is be quiet and lay low for the week and she'd be good. But of course she doesn't know that. The house mostly want Lisa out, and the main reason why is because they think that she has this damn power. So by trying to hurt Quinn here, Angela is actually hurting herself way more. Now eventually Kimo does inform Tucker that Quinn does indeed have the power. These two are in a new working alliance that I'll get to a little bit later. So Kimo told Tucker this as a bit of a trust building thing, and so now Tucker does believe it, but he still really freaking hates Lisa, so he still wants her gone anyway. He's not doing anything to leak or expose this info, not that he should, because Quinn is pretty much on his side, so doing that would just hurt his game. He's not trying to flip the vote or anything, even though Tucker just got into it with Angela himself. So overall, despite all of this, Lisa is still set to go home. We're still back at square one. I can't help but wonder what this power is gonna do to Quinn's reputation when it eventually does get used, though. Everybody's gonna know that he went the entire week kind of lying to everybody and blaming Lisa for a power that he had, so he might get clocked for being a snake. And he has kind of played a snake-ass game so far, and he's starting to get a little bit sloppy, I will say, so I can see Quinn's just reputation in the house going downhill for a little bit at least. It's not all over for him. I think that now that so many people know about Quinn's power, it would be kind of useless to try to keep it a secret for the whole week like he was originally planning to. And it would be even more useless for him to win HOH and then deepfake himself, which I think he's abandoned that idea, thankfully. What he could do, at least what I would consider doing at this point, is just telling everybody straight up, hey, I won a secret HOH and I'm planning on using it this week. So if you want to try to win this HOH comp, feel free, but I will be taking it for you, just so you know. That's definitely the boring move and not how the producers originally intended this thing to work, right? But it could establish some goodwill with the house, and it could prevent Quinn from inevitably blindsiding and pissing off whoever the real HOH and their allies were in the first place, because they would just know straight up beforehand. Again, this would be a much more boring week for us, but probably a safer week for Quinn. Other news in the Angela saga, the beef between her and Lisa is now bigger than ever. I actually can't believe they haven't shown it in the TV edit yet, because this beef is kind of fun. I mean, well, it's probably not fun to Lisa, but it's fun to me. Angela and Lisa first had a rough start together during week 1 when Lisa was thrown on the block. But since then, they were able to have a really long heart-to-heart conversation and smooth things over, and now things are looking bright and cheery, right? At least things were for a while. And the feeds have been kind of choppy this past week, so I'm not 100% sure what ruined all that, but I have a good feeling it was when Lisa tried to break up with Angela last week.
It compromises my integrity to be closely associated with it, unfortunately. So
with it meaning me.
Yeah. And I'm very sorry, but like, it doesn't align with me anymore.
I'm telling you, I think this conversation really hurt Angela's feelings, because now every time she sees Lisa, it's up. She's calling Lisa names.
And then she walks after me and she goes, "You're such a twit." And I said, "Please stop bullying me." And she goes, "I'm not a bully, you're a twit."
Lisa can't smirk in peace.
Lisa, wipe that stupid smirk off your face.
Lisa can't walk in peace. Yes, it is kind of mean, but I mean, Lisa did also hurt Angela's feelings too, so it's like, what can you do? Plus, if we're being honest, these people say mean things about Lisa's back all the time in that house because they don't like her a ton. At least Angela isn't being fake with it. Meanwhile, let's quickly get into my least favorite part of these recaps, which is Showmance Watch. I just never really liked dating shows or that whole fake love stuff, so showmances aren't my thing, but it is starting to affect the gameplay a little bit, so let's get into it. Leah and Cam have been flirting very hard the past week, and they were headed directly towards a showmance, but people were starting to take notice, and it was starting to affect their game. Chelsie had been trying to push Leah away from Cam and kind of redirect her towards Tucker a little bit, and surprisingly, it totally worked. Leah is now fully crushing on Tucker and flirting with him a bunch, but he is just not into it at all, y'all. Leah is actually kind of the opposite of his type, so womp womp there for her. But since then, she has kind of started talking to Cam a little bit more, even though she says she doesn't like him like that. Like, girl, you do. She was flirting with Quinn a lot during week 1, but since then, he's kind of realized that whole friendship/alliance wasn't really going anywhere. So he's finally starting to give up on her, which I think is probably better for his game in the long run. The thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was after this whole fiasco, Quinn did kind of start talking about maybe targeting Cam in the future now, which I get targeting Cam because he's social and he's super physical and he has like the whole modern BB winner package thing kind of going on. But some of it did seem a little emotional, like maybe Quinn just wants Cam out because he's starting to flirt with Leah a lot more. Just something to note. See, what Quinn should be focused on is that big alliance that he's in that is slowly but surely starting to become a big force in the game. We already know that Quinn, Kimo, and T-Kor together make the Visionaries, which is probably the strongest trio in the house right now. But now they've started to expand, so they've brought in Tucker and Rubina to the group. I think their goal is to get to a 6, so there's been talks about adding a Joseph or a Chelsie or somebody in there too, but things are still being worked out.
Honestly, I'm thinking an ideal dream team, if we're thinking 6, could be me, you, Quinn, Rubina, Chelsie, Tucker, potentially.
So this group isn't completely solid. There hasn't been any handshakes or formal alliance names yet, but it's the strongest thing we got right now. Now, I do want to give a special shout out to Kimo and T-Kor this week. They both started this game very quiet in terms of strategy and personality, but this week they've kicked things up a lot more to where they're probably in the strongest positions in the whole house. They are currently working towards having the biggest alliance, which is sure to strengthen next week. They're good with Quinn, so they have the protection of his power without the risk of actually being Quinn himself. They have each other as their ride or dies to hold on to. And I don't think anybody's looking to target either one of them right now, so they're good there. Overall, excellent second week for Kimo and T-Kor. And finally, before we depart, I did want to quickly touch on Wednesday's veto episode that showcased the drama between Angela and Quinn. This entire altercation had been hidden from us fans on the feeds all week. Every time it was brought up or remotely mentioned, they would cut off the feeds, just leaving people to speculate on what actually happened. So while I was relieved that they actually showed us what was really going on there, we also have to remember that this is an edited entertainment program. So we're never gonna see the entire story, no matter how well it's packaged and presented to us. That being said, based on the edit, no, I don't think Angela was being prejudiced or racist when she told Quinn that's the group. But I do completely understand, specifically with this show's history, why the black players in the game were so sensitive about it. It makes total sense. It's just that with Angela, we have seen this same paranoid behavior happen over and over and over again. So that is just a part of her personality. Now, I do wish that Angela would have listened more and talked less when T-Kor was trying to educate her. Instead, Angela got super defensive, which is understanding. It just wasn't necessary there. But I am glad that Angela was finally able to understand and listen and apologize to T-Kor, even if production was probably pushing her to do that a little bit. We saw Angela walk into the DR a mess and crying, and when she came back out, she had seemingly changed her tone completely and was ready to listen and apologize. And I don't have any proof, but I strongly believe that the producers or the show psychologist or somebody was able to help her and walk her through and coach her on what to say next. But even then, I would still much rather that happen and have that be a learning moment for Angela and for all of us than it just be a moment of malice and anger. Now, I don't necessarily believe Angela when she said that she pointed out the group because that was the group that she wanted to work with. Again, I don't have live feed proof of this or anything, and I know there was a clip floating around of Angela muttering to herself that she'd want to work with Chelsie and T-Kor, I think, somewhere down the line. But it's still just my hunch that she really was being paranoid about them in that moment in true Angela fashion. And finally, this one may be a hot take, but contrary to that DR edit that we saw, I personally don't believe that Quinn concocted this whole thing on purpose to ignite a race war or whatever in the house. There hasn't been any behavior from Quinn or anything else on the feeds that would just make me believe that. The only reason why people are talking about this in the first place was because of that little snippet from part of a sentence that Quinn said at some point in the past 4 days that they purposely snipped and clipped and placed right there at the end, right before a commercial break. When Quinn said, "I was trying to be nefarious," that could literally apply to so many different conversations or moves that he's made in the game. Like, it literally might not even be about this subject at all. The producers could have purposely added a wrong sentence at the right time, right before a commercial break and right after something super controversial happened. I think especially the fact that they put that in right before the commercial break allowed that quote to sit and marinate in our minds, and for the next 2 minutes, all people were talking about or thinking about was Quinn being the villain. And don't get me wrong, Quinn definitely has his villain tendencies. I don't want to deny that. But him informing T-Kor of that was not villainous at all. T-Kor is his closest ally in the game. He better tell her when somebody's being sus of her. I just don't trust these TV edits completely is all I'm saying, and I wouldn't recommend you do that either. So I don't want to just get blindly enraged and emotional based on the few things that they choose to show me, because we know that so much is getting left out. Yes, this whole saga was packaged and presented and edited very nicely to us, but it is not the whole truth. The real entire truth, we're just never gonna know, because unfortunately they hid it from us on the feeds. So that's just the best we got. So that's all I got for now. I just can't wait for a fresh week to start and for these upgrade powers to finally get used in the game. Once again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below if you have not already. Of course, I'll be back here to update you all with the new HOH and all the new details of the house. But until then, bye.